Okay, so today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is myth busting. In this case, it's about the myths behind copywriting. More specifically, things that I hear a lot from people that are simply not true, and they could be costing you money if you believe in these things. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Number one, if it's a luxury brand or a beauty brand or something along those lines, a lot of times people will say, our audience doesn't have any pain. So there's really nothing to agitate. So the reason this even comes up is because one of the most popular copywriting formulas is PAS, which stands for pain, agitation, and solution. And so the idea is that you bring up the pain the person's in, you kind of stir the pot a little bit by agitating it, and then you provide a solution, which is usually your solution. But even if it's a product like a luxury product, the person is looking to improve their life or their situation in some way. So maybe it's not out and out pain or an actual challenge, but it could be just something that they aspire to have. So you want to sort of rub salt in the wound. That might be a little bit severe, but you have to bring up something that will make them want to make the decision to go with whatever you're selling, because they came to you for a reason or they found you for a reason. So no, it does not have to be an actual pain. And aside from that, there are other copywriting formulas such as AIDA, which I've gotten into in other podcasts, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and then action. So maybe that's more fitting for what your particular product is. There's like 21 different formulas. So you really want to look through which will be best for you. So no, it does not have to be pain, but there's definitely something that person is going to want. Okay. Number two is when people say, well, copywriting is manipulative. And I think what comes to mind most is the kind of the clickbaity BuzzFeed headlines that really pull you in, and they're pretty irresistible. Their copywriters are pretty good. The idea is that you're dying to know what's in the copy, so you click on it. Typical copywriting for a website or a landing page or an ad isn't manipulative because it's simply helping. The idea is to help the person make a decision, to get off the fence about whatever it is they're trying to decide. That's how I look at it. And I've interviewed people who talk and experts on behavioral psychology who agree that that really is what it's about. It's not about manipulating anybody. No one's going to buy something they don't really need, except for me a lot of times. But that's a whole other story. So then number three is when people say, my audience is really techie, they like these complex words, they're not going to respond to emotional copy. Okay, so first of all, people are still people. So you can say my audience is super techie, unless they're bots, which I hope we haven't gotten to that point yet, where everyone who's reading our copy is going to be bots. But it doesn't matter how super techie a person is or how intellectual they are. People just make decisions based on emotion. And there's a lot of research that shows and backs this up. And I talk about this quite a bit because I get resistance on it. And I think one of the reasons is because people confuse making a decision with emotion as being emotional. I mean, no one's going to be reading copy that, is going to have them burst into tears so that then they have to buy your product or service. It just will make them feel something is all that means. And that feel something could just be realizing that they are not doing the best they can with their business and that this is a solution that would make things easier, would save them money, would de-stress, whatever it is. That's the kind of emotion we're talking about. But still, people are people, and you do need to add emotion to copy in order to get people to make a decision. The fourth myth or misconception that I hear often is when a client says, we've done all the research, we just need you to write it. And granted, a lot of the clients that I do work with have a lot of research done. They've done their marketing and that absolutely is something that is helpful to me. But the thing is, when you hire a conversion copywriter like myself, I have a different perspective and I have a different way of speaking to your clients or your prospects or customers. So the questions that you ask them in your research are very likely going to be different than the questions that I ask them, because I'm looking for something different. I'm digging for different information than you might. So it works best together to have your analytics together with the questions that I'm going to be asking them. So it still requires some research, regardless of how much you've done. The last one I wanted to bring up is when people say, we just want short copy. We think the shorter copy is better. And it's also going to be less money, right? Well, I don't charge by the word. Back when I was doing content writing, a lot of magazines would pay per word. And people would joke, why don't you just add a whole bunch of fluffy words in it? It doesn't work that way, okay? But in copywriting, short copy, say an ad, a headline that has to grab people, that is way harder to write than long copy, because you need to have as much impact as you can in that copy. So the shorter it is, the more research, and sometimes the longer it takes. So number one, it takes just as long, again, if not longer, but also that's why you can't expect to be charged less. If anything, you're going to be charged more, especially if it's something that's a rush job, but that's a different aspect. But the words need to have more impact. Okay, so a shorter headline or subject line or shorter copy overall will likely take longer to write than long copy. So just really quickly, I'll run through what these 5 misconceptions are. Number 1 is our audience doesn't have any pain to agitate. Number 2, copywriting is manipulative. Again, that's not true. 3, my audience is super techie. And another thing on this I wanted to add is also behind the same statement is that people say, well, I want to keep all these big, long keywords in here because that's how they're going to read it. And that's another misconception, which I just want to fishtail. I just want to let you know along with those same lines is that research also shows that writing simple words, simple, very clear sentences and paragraphs makes it easier for everyone on any intellectual level to read. They'll read it faster. So, and then the 4th one, we've done all the research. So we don't need you to do any, we just need you to write it. And the last one is we just need short copy. So we should be charged less for that. And that's better for people to read. So all of these are things that need to be addressed and are simply not true. So I hope that cleared things up. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to my podcast and visit my website at thecopyworks.com. Talk soon. Thanks for listening.